Hey, friends! New Year's Eve is upon us, and I'm having a real wild party to ring in the new year. All of my friends are already here to help me celebrate. See? There they are right there. Looks like some of them have been making merry already. Well, anyway, I've just enough time to make one more video this year before I have to take all those decorations down. So I thought it was only fitting I should do a review of a New Year's themed movie. So I tracked one down that tells you right in the title it's a New Year's picture. Or so it says. Happy New Year is a forgotten film from 1987, starring Peter Falk and Charles Durning. Why is it forgotten? Well, our story goes like this. Nick is a small-time crook who has a perfect setup all ready and waiting. His regular partner isn't available, so he goes with his old friend Charlie, who he's known since reform school. The pair are going to knock over a high-end jewelry store, which is supposedly almost impossible given the level of security. But Nick has a plan, what he calls a psychological crime. This involves Nick disguising himself first as an old man and then as the old man's sister, both playing on the trust and good nature of the manager of the jewelry store. But as he's casing the place, Nick meets this chick who owns a snooty antique shop next door and gets sidetracked, falling in love when he should be concentrating on the heist. Can Nick win the chick? Can he pull off the crime caper? Will it turn out that the shadow was wrong and crime does pay? Besides Peter Falk and Charles Durning, Wendy Hughes plays the love interest, Caroline. And there's a cameo by the Temptations at a New Year's soiree. Now, this is billed as a wild comedy caper, and while there is definitely a caper involved, it's no more a wild comedy than my wild New Year's party is a wild party, since I'm all alone with some booze and no one to share it with but my liver. What this really is more of a romantic comedy and very light on the comedy part. It's incredibly low-key and laid-back as comedies go. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to see this as a comedy at all. The humor is so dry, you'd think you were in the Sahara. Oh, it has a few moments, certainly, but nothing truly comedic. Instead, it's simply amiable. Not terrible, not bad, but not really a funny comedy. It's very slow to get going, and more time is spent on the romance angle than the actual caper, which is supposed to be what the picture is about. It tends to have a meandering feel and more than takes its time to get where it needs to go. And New Year's doesn't really factor into this, like, at all. It just happens to be on New Year's Eve towards the end of the movie, but that's about it. I did like how the details of the caper itself are kept from us until it actually goes down, so that keeps you guessing as to how our heroes will pull off the crime. Gotta say, the makeup here is phenomenal. These Mission Impossible style masks just seem to work, and Falk uses the makeup to great effect, but how, where, or when he learned this level of makeup, how he makes the masks, how he developed the process, putting the stuff on, all of that, we never see. We just have to assume he learned the craft somewhere, despite that being beyond the average person. Like, you or I can't make these Hollywood-level latex appliances at home even today, let alone make them so good that they could fool people, so you have to suspend some disbelief there. Director John G. Avildsen previously helmed such classics as Rocky, Lean on Me, and the first 3 installments of The Karate Kid. So he knew what he was doing, but not so much with comedy. But while Happy New Year just isn't much of a comedy, the relationships between the characters are pretty good, and the movie is shot very well. Has a nice score, too. For the most part, Falk is in typically good form, especially in the last third of the picture, and Durning is good as the faithful friend. Durning also narrates throughout. Hughes is also very, very good as the love interest. She and Falk have some good chemistry. But ultimately, this one was a disappointment. Kinda like my New Year's Eve party. Happy New Year was based on a French film from 1973 called La Bonne Annee, reportedly a favorite of Stanley Kubrick's, and I can see why. The original film is much more stylish and much more interesting. It also is not really a comedy though, but the absurdist elements work much better. It was fun to see what they kept versus what they cut from the older film while making the newer one, and they shuffled some things around too, so those choices were interesting. I found La Bonne Annee on YouTube if you want to see it. I liked it. It's on there for now, but you can also get it on disc, and it's worth a watch, a proper French film. As for Happy New Year, I'm giving it 2 paws up. I did like some of it, but it's slow, not really much of a comedy, and has nothing to do with New Year's, but it isn't exactly terrible either. It's an amiable picture whose only real crime is that it forgot to be funny. Certainly worth a watch for Falk completists, and the interplay between Falk and Hughes and Durning, all of that is good too. The original French version from 1973 is more like 3 paws. It's a lot classier. Doesn't have Peter Falk though. As for me, I gotta get this party going. So you take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next year. Hey gang, anyone up for charades? Anyone?